offsprings of an individual. And there are so many of good benefits right from this variation. There is evolution. When you take the evolution occurs. The evolution occurs because of the variation in the individuals. And also the variation, it will lead, what does it lead? To healthy gene, especially from one generation to another. The third point is that the organism, they can easily adapt to, they can easily acclimatize themselves to any type of a condition, and this helps in variation. Of course, this variation helps in selecting, it's of great help, especially in the process of the selecting the best characters in the progeny of a person. Now let's go to the next subdivision, which is the genes. What is this genes are? So the character of a person, any type of a character, the characters are transformed, it is transmitted through this type of gene. The gene transfers from one generation to another. That is because of the presence of the DNA in the chromosome of the nucleus. So the inheritance of this character is, it is because of the fact taken right from the father and from the mother, and it is equally distributed in equal amounts to the child. So this character passes on, and for each character, these two factors, that is especially from the father and mother, it continues in distributing to the offspring as well. So as you can see, the person here, he is nothing but he is the father of genetics. He is called as Gregor Johann Mendel. He conducted certain experiments, especially in the garden pea plants, what you say as the green pea plants, right? Everybody of us likes that. So he is a father of genetics. So he is the only person who did a cross fertilization. He randomly checked the variation, that is he crossbred with a tall and with a short plant, with a round and with a wrinkled, with a shrunken one and with a round. All this contrasting characters he was going on experimenting with, and of course he is called as the father of genetics. So here he experimented with a garden pea plant. So these experiment was carried out with the pea plants, and they determine the rule for inheritance of the characters. So he started to study the contrasting characters. Just now I told you, Gregor Johann Mendel, he started to study with the contrasting characters like the shortness, the dwarfness, the round, wrinkled, and even the different types of colors, the purple, the white colors of a flower, and how the position of the flower, especially the terminal position of the flower, the green color seed, and the color of the flower by working on the pea plant. So in botanical terms, we call the pea plant as Pisum sativum. It's called as a Pisum sativum. So why did he choose this pea plant? Let's quickly get into why did he choose this pea plant. So the contrasting characters were seen in every generation, because the plants had the bisexual flowers. I think in last chapter we were studying about the parts of the flowers, how you identify the parts of the flower. When you take a flower, the flower will have the stamens. Supposing if it has the stigma, the style, the ovary, then it is said to be if it has a pistil, if it has said to be, then it is a female. So in some flowers, both the male and the female organs together, it is embedded with, or it is brought out, and that is called as a bisexual flowers. The flower itself will have. So when I was taking that session, if you go to that video and if you can If you can see, you will have a better understanding. So here also Mendel chose this, he chose this pea plant because of the bisexual flowers, because the plant had both the male part and the female part together, and that is the reason he took and he worked on this bisexual flowers, and he started to pollinate it. He started to self-pollinate it. So in this bisexual plants, a cross fertilization, the artificial cross fertilization was very easy, and it could be achieved very easy. So each pea plant, it started to produce many seeds in one generation, and also it could easily be raised. That is, it was easily grown. It was easily grown, and he maintained and he handled it well. That is, I can just tell you a short story behind this theory of plants. So I think when Gregor Johann Mendel was experimenting this, before he could go into this experiment in his garden, he was growing many pea plants. He used to eat the pea plant and he used to throw the seeds, but it randomly produced many plants. So when he walked out from his house, and when he was just uh, when he was lingering around the garden, he saw the beautiful pea plant garden, and he imagined what made this plant to grow very quickly, how he raised it without the maintenance. And he thought that, let me go for an experiment using this pea plant, and only after this thought he started to cross for fertilize the plants. They even for cross pollination, and this is how he did the fertilization also. So this is a small story. So he saw the beautiful flowers, he saw the contrasting colors, the tall and the short, and he said, why can't I crossbreed it? Let me see what are the generations which is produced in the next generation. So that was the main uh, background or the main theory. This is a short inspiring story of a Mendel. So this is how he worked on the principle of uh, uh, this pea plant. So the pea plant could be easily raised, and it can be maintained, and it can also be handled very in an easy manner, and that is the first reason, that is the foremost reason for Gregor Johann Mendel to work on the pea plant. The first work which was carried out by the Mendel was the monohybrid cross. So here, as the word mono means it explains only the one characters, or it simplifies or it explains the one characters or the trait of the plants. Here, he examined the inheritance of only one trait. So what happens if you cross the tall pea plant with the short plant? What is the net result? That was his experiment. So as you see there in the figure, the tall pea plant is represented by the capital letter T, and that is denoted as dominant factor, whereas the little t, the small t, is the recessive part. So when you see the next part, the next tabulation there, you can see one tall, and he selected three small uh, pea plants. So he selected only one tall plant, and the rest were the small plants. So when he cross fertilized, when he did a cross examination, what did he analyze, or what was the net resultant? The first generation, the tall and tall, since the capital T is their dominant, the generation produced the tall and the short. The next one, both are recessive, both are small. So next one will be both characters, or the both traits were small. So the next box, if you can see, one tall, one short, and the last box is TT. So this was the this was the result. So as a result, you can see two tall, two dominant tall, two tall, you can see two tall and two short. It is equally distributed. So in this experiment, so Mendel took two plants of opposite characters, that is one tall and one short, and he crossed them. And what did he analyze, or what did he get? He found the first generation offsprings were tall, and the progeny and the and he called it as the F1 progeny. So now he then crossed this progeny and he obtained both the tall plant as well as the short plant, and he got a ratio 3:1 then. He got a ratio 3:1. So Mendel conducted this experiment with some other contrasting characters like the green peas with that of the yellow peas, the round and the wrinkled, and this brought a special law called as the law of segregation and dominance. And he concluded that in a monohybrid cross, only one of the two contrasting characters appeared in F1 generation. In F2, both the characters appeared to be like in certain proportion, and each character and each pair of this factor started to control the characters, and one inherited from that of the parent, from each parent. So Mendel considered that these factors are the best carriers. They are the best carriers of the hereditary information which is carried on from one generation to another, especially at the time of reproduction. So when the gametes are formed, these factors only what do? They segregate so that each gamete, it receives only one factor or one character, and hence the term it got the law of segregation. So when you take the F1 generation, only one character is expressed, and since it expresses one character, so Mendel, what did he call it as? He called it as the dominant characters. The characters was not expressed. The characters which was not expressed were termed, that is, which were not dominant. The characters which was not dominant, and that characters is called as the recessive characters. So this phenomenon of two contrasting traits in one similar generation, especially in one F1 generation, and this is termed as the law of dominance. Next one will be the characters were not lost. During this experiment, the characters were not lost even when they were not expressed, and also the offsprings, they were allowed to go for the pollination, the self-pollination, and the traits were expressed in a very definite proportion, in equal proportions in F2. And of course, the F2 generation, he again had this concept, and he started to experimenting with a dihybrid cross that we will see in the coming classes. And Mendel here, he prostituted, or he said, or he explained the inheritance factors. They are controlled only by the characters. The characters are controlled, and the organisms are independent. They become independent of the other, and hence the term the law of independence. At the time of reproduction, when you see the two pairs of the factors, they what happen? Factors of each of the two traits, they get segregated or they get separated during the formation of the gametes. and they are got combined with the in the F2 generation. They got combined themselves in the F2 generation, and that is why new combinations or new varieties are appeared in the parental combination. So far in this full session, we saw what is hereditary is, what is evolution is. We also saw about the importance of variation, and we saw the different examples in the variation, that is right from the human beings, right from the birds and the animals, and also we also saw in fruits and vegetables how this variation takes place. Of course, we saw the gene, how the gene plays a very vital role, especially in carrying out the genetic information from one generation to another. We also saw about the father of genetics, who's none other than the Gregor Johann Mendel, and how did he select the contrasting characters to study the generation in F1 in F2, and he wanted to see the combination when he combined the two different traits, the two different characters of the plants. And we also saw the contribution, why did he do that, and we also saw about the monohybrid cross, how he took one trait and he mixed it in terms of tall plant and short plant, and he got the net resultant. We also saw some laws where he formulated the law of independent assortment. Then we saw law of dominance, law of recessive, law of segregation. We saw all these laws. So hope this session was very useful, and hope this session was very informative. So if you like this video, please share the video, subscribe to our channel 2xion, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up button there. So meet you all in the next biology class. Until then, it is me signing off. So take care, children. See you in the next video. Thank you.